My life took a delightful turn when I met James. Before him, my days were consumed by navigating one corporate crisis after another. But stepping into James's world introduced me to a realm of sweetness, quite literally, at his family-owned candy shop. Sweet Sanctuary. Here, love and confections blended seamlessly, and I quickly found myself managing the finances of this charming little store. "Good morning, love," James would greet me, his smile illuminating the room as I entered the shop, filled with the enticing scent of sugar and chocolate. Despite any underlying stress, his warmth reminded me of my newfound joy. "Morning," I'd respond, sifting through the mail, mostly bills, which I'd become adept at managing. "Sales are up this month. That new chocolate line is really taking off," I'd announce, striving to keep the atmosphere upbeat. James would respond with a nonchalant shrug. "Yeah, well, that's all you're doing. Mom still sees me as the candy." He joked, but I could sense a hint of pressure beneath his casual tone. Just then, his mother, Patricia, would burst into the store, radiating enthusiasm and invading our personal space. "James, my boy, you've truly outdone yourself. The store looks fabulous," she'd exclaim, beaming as she patted him on the back. Her gaze would quickly shift to me, her smile tightening slightly. "Karen, still playing shopkeeper, I see?" I'd let out a quiet sigh, striving to maintain my politeness. "Good morning, Patricia. Yes, playing shopkeeper is keeping us in the black," I'd reply, avoiding confrontation. Patricia would dismiss my comment with a wave of her hand. Numbers. You should leave that to the accountants and help my son with the real business." Her voice dripped with barely concealed disdain. Before I could respond, James interjected. "Mom, Karen's doing just fine. We're thriving because she's got a business head." He'd wrap his arm around me, a silent but firm gesture of support. Patricia sniffed dismissively. "Well, as long as my boy is happy, I suppose that's what matters." With that, she'd flounce off, leaving behind a lingering trace of her presence. James would squeeze my side apologetically. "Don't let her get to you," he'd murmur. I'd force a smile. "I'm not. Let's just focus on the shop, okay?" And we did, pouring our hearts into making Sweet Sanctuary not just a candy store but a slice of paradise. That bliss persisted until I began noticing troubling signs. Deliveries became more frequent, but instead of confections, they were filled with expensive gadgets sporting alarming price tags. "Another package, James?" I'd ask one evening, locking up the cash register and eyeing a sleek new gadget still in its packaging. "Oh, that's the new phone I ordered," James exclaimed, his excitement palpable as he tore into the box. "Top of the line." I raised an eyebrow. "Don't we have other priorities?" The mixer in the back has been making that strange noise. James waved off my concerns, his attention glued to his new toy. "It's fine, Karen. We've got to treat ourselves too." You know, part of me wanted to protest, to remind him of the precarious financial tightrope we were walking, but I held back, hoping for a balance between indulging ourselves and sustaining our dream. I stayed quiet, but it wasn't just the phone that worried me. Patricia, ever the showwoman, frequently flaunted her latest extravagant purchases, turning Sweet Sanctuary into her personal fashion runway. "Karen, look at this dress. Isn't it just darling?" Patricia exclaimed, twirling in an extravagant floral dress that surely cost more than what we earned in a day. "It's nice," I replied, keeping my tone measured. "But shouldn't we be saving to fix the sign outside?" Patricia waved my concerns away, patting James's cheek dismissively. "Nonsense. The store is thriving. James, tell her." James, only half listening, nodded in agreement. "Yeah, we're doing great. Karen, don't worry so much." But that was precisely my problem. I worried, Every time I checked our financials, the numbers told a different story, one of shrinking profits eaten away by frivolous expenses. Look, we should be careful, I suggested later that week as we reviewed our financial situation. James shot me a look as if I'd suggested selling the store to join the circus. A budget? Come on, Karen. It's not that bad. You're being stingy. That word, stingy, stung. I wasn't being stingy. I was being sensible. It's not about being stingy, James. It's about being smart. We need to think about the future of Sweet Sanctuary, I argued. But he seemed uninterested, already browsing another website for his next purchase. You worry too much, he dismissed, half-focused. It'll all work out. The situation escalated when Patricia decided we needed extra help. It was a Tuesday, our inventory day, and I was sorting through a shipment of candy jars when she walked in, arm in arm with a young girl who looked barely 20. Karen, this is Lisa, Patricia introduced grandly. Lisa, dear, this is Karen, my son's assistant. I straightened, wiping my hands on my apron. Nice to meet you, Lisa, but I'm the co-manager here, I corrected politely. Lisa offered a polite but distant smile. I've heard a lot about you. I'm excited to be part of the team. Patricia's smug expression made it clear she hadn't consulted James about this hire. What exactly will Lisa be assisting with? I asked, striving to keep my tone friendly. Oh, she's going to help with the business side of things. You can only do so much. After all, Patricia replied, her gaze sweeping dismissively over my inventory sheets. I nodded, though confusion and concern churned inside me. All right, well, we have a system here, so I'll need to bring her up to speed. It soon became clear that Lisa's idea of helping was more about observing than actively participating. When I discovered the salary Patricia had approved for her, I was taken aback. James, can we talk? I asked later in the office. Sure, what's up? He replied without looking up from his computer. It's about Lisa. Her salary, it's more than we can afford for her role, I explained. James finally glanced up, his expression troubled. Mom said it was fine. She thinks Lisa is going to bring a lot to the table. I sighed, feeling as though I was talking to a brick wall. The challenges at Sweet Sanctuary were mounting, and it was increasingly difficult to keep our Sweet Sanctuary from turning sour, despite our agreement to discuss new hires together, especially regarding their salaries. James brushed off the importance with a shrug, an all-too-common gesture lately. What's done is done. Mom has a good feeling about her, he remarked, frustrated. I held back my response. Relying on good feelings wasn't going to balance our books. I left his office, feeling like the only one aware of the red flags, while James and his mother seemed to navigate the business with their eyes closed. I've always been meticulous, double-checking and sometimes triple-checking, especially with numbers. One day, while searching for a misplaced invoice, I found an envelope tucked away in the back of a filing cabinet. Assuming it was just another overlooked bill, I opened it, only to feel my heart drop. Inside was a document listing Sweet Sanctuary as collateral, with a sum wildly beyond what our humble shop could justify. James, I called, entering his cluttered office with the papers in hand. As he looked up, I caught a flicker of guilt in his eyes, his first in months. What is this? I demanded. Oh, that? It's nothing. Just a small loan I took out for store improvements, he replied casually. Store improvements? I echoed incredulously. This amount could renovate the store 9 times over. What did you really use it for? The tension hung thick in the air, the truth looming uncomfortably between us. Look, he began carefully. I might have used some of it for the house, the one I've been fixing up for us. For us? I repeated, disbelief sharpening my tone. Or for your gadgets and all the other frivolities you've been spending money on? At that, he stood, the chair scraping back like a judge's gavel, demanding order. Yet all I felt was a surge of frustration. It's not like that, Karen. You don't understand. This is all going to pay off in the end. I shook my head vehemently. No, James. Taking out a loan against the store without telling me? That's what I can't understand. How could you be so reckless? Before he could respond, Patricia strode in, her expression darkening when she spotted the papers in my hand. What's going on here? She demanded. I didn't wait for James to explain. Instead, I thrust the loan documents toward her. Did you know about this? She barely glanced at them, dismissing them with a wave of her hand. Of course, James is just doing what's necessary for our future. Who are you to question him? You're just the help. After all. Her words stung, igniting a fierce resolve within me. Just the help? I shot back, my voice steady and firm. I've been keeping the store afloat while you two treat it like your personal bank account. James paled, while Patricia's anger simmered just beneath the surface. You ungrateful little, she began, but I interrupted, surprisingly calm. What's ungrateful is ignoring the hard work I've put into this business. What's foolish is risking everything for a house we don't even need. They fell silent, caught in the weight of their misdeeds. I left the room, clutching the documents like a verdict. Later, the kitchen table, usually the backdrop for casual meals, became the stage for a grave discussion, as if we were strategizing for war rather than chatting about a candy shop. James cleared his throat, avoiding my gaze. We need to talk about the store's future, he said. I sat down, folding my hands on the table, ready to confront the issues we'd long ignored. Patricia's demeanor shifted to a stern focus. We need to be realistic, Karen. The store isn't making enough to cover the debts. We have to find money somewhere. The way she said we sent alarm bells ringing. It seemed to imply that the responsibility fell squarely on my shoulders. What do you suggest? I asked, striving to maintain my composure. Her eyes flickered with a calculating coldness. You have that inheritance from your parents. It could clear the debts and stabilize the store. I was taken aback, feeling like I was conversing with a stranger, not the mother of the man I married. You want me to use my parents' money? The money meant for my personal security? I asked, incredulous. James interjected. It's not like you're doing anything else with it. And what about our security? Patricia retorted sharply, implying that my funds should serve as a family resource. I looked between them, my heart sinking. I am part of this family, but it feels like you only recognize that when you need something from me. James shifted uncomfortably. It's not like that, Karen, but we're struggling here. So you expect me to just hand over my future? I questioned, disbelief coloring my tone. Patricia leaned closer, pressing her point. If you care about this family. Yes. I thought of all the long hours and sleepless nights I had poured into keeping the store afloat. If I do this, if I use my inheritance, I want 1/3 of the store. I want to be an official co-owner. Silence enveloped the room. Then Patricia let out a laugh that was anything but light. You a co-owner? Don't be ridiculous. You're not business material. I rose from my seat, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. Then find another way to cover your debts because my inheritance is not your emergency fund. James's expression was unreadable, but Patricia's face flushed with anger. You'd let this family business fail? I've tried to save it, I said quietly, but firmly, but I won't set myself on fire to keep you warm. That night, an unsettling feeling drew me back to Sweet Sanctuary. The shop was dark, as expected, but a faint glow emanated from the back office, hinting at something amiss. I pushed the door open. The usual comforting chime of the bell now felt foreboding. The sweet scent of candy, once reassuring, now hung thick with deception. As I approached the back, the murmurs from the office grew more distinct. Through the partially open door, I caught sight of James, his arms wrapped around Lisa, the new assistant. She giggled at something he whispered, and the moment I pushed the door fully open, they sprang apart, their expressions shifting from surprise to guilt. "Karen," James stammered, quickly adjusting his shirt. "It's not what it looks like." "Oh really?" "Because it looks like I just walked in on my husband with his arms around another woman." Lisa fumbled with her hair, unable to meet my gaze. "We were just going over inventory at midnight," she mumbled. "With the inventory in your arms?" I shot back dryly. James's eyes were desperate, pleading with me to see it differently. "Karen, please, you're blowing this out of proportion." I let out a short, humorless laugh, the icy calm washing over me, making the reality of the situation all the clearer. The trust and partnership I thought we shared had shattered, leaving only the jagged pieces behind. He stepped toward me, but I raised my hand to stop him. "Save it, James. I don't know what's worse, the fact that you're cheating or the pathetic excuses you're trying to sell me." Finally, Lisa found her voice, though it trembled. "I'm sorry, Karen. I never wanted any of this to happen." I studied Lisa, youthful and naive, caught in the web of a man unwilling to face his mistakes. "You should be sorry. And you, James, should start job hunting," I declared. James was quick to object. "You can't fire her over this." My determination was unwavering. "I can and I will. Tomorrow, I'll be contacting a lawyer." His face turned ashen. "Karen, please, let's discuss this." "There's nothing left to discuss," I interrupted sharply. "You've made your choices. Now you have to live with them." I didn't wait for a response, striding out of the room with my head held high, his pleas fading into the background. The following morning was bright, a stark contrast to the gloom that enveloped our household. After spending the night at my rental apartment, I sat at the kitchen table when my phone buzzed. It was a message from James. Though tempted to ignore it, curiosity got the better of me. It was a photo of a bank letter demanding immediate repayment. Below it, he typed, "We need to talk." "This is serious," I replied, on my way, preparing to confront whatever awaited me. When I arrived at the confectionery, I found James and Patricia already there, pacing nervously. Patricia noticed me first, her expression darkening. "Decided to show up, did you?" she snapped as I entered. I met her glare head-on. "You wanted to talk?" James handed me the letter. "The bank is coming down hard on us. We could lose everything." I reviewed the document, feeling a familiar unease at the figures but not surprised by them. "So what's your plan?" Patricia shot me a venomous look. "We wouldn't be in this mess if you had just helped when we asked." Ignoring her, I turned to James. "What are you going to do?" He looked defeated, running a hand through his hair. "I thought maybe you could cover it with your inheritance." My laugh was bitter. "I told you, I'm not covering this bill without a stake in the business." Patricia stepped forward, her voice dripping with disdain. "You're being unreasonable, Karen. This is a family business." I met her challenge with forced calm. "And where was this family when your son was mismanaging our funds and hiring his friends for kicks?" James opened his mouth to respond but faltered, looking down. "You don't get to play the family card only when it suits you," I continued. "We need to figure something else out." James muttered, "You'll have to then." To my surprise, Patricia smiled, though it was anything but pleasant. "Fine, but if you're not helping, then you're out. We'll manage without you. You're fired." I stared at her, letting the silence hang heavy before mirroring her smile. Okay. Their astonishment was almost amusing. Just like that? James asked incredulously. Just like that, I confirmed. I need you to understand that I've meticulously gathered evidence. I've taken photographs of your dealings with Lisa and kept a detailed log of every dime squandered. If you think you can just dismiss me and bury this mess, you're sorely mistaken. As Patricia's smile faltered, she shot back, "You wouldn't dare." "Oh, but I would. And as I leave, I'm taking my hard-earned achievements with me. Let's see how you explain to the bank why this business is floundering without its real pillar." Months had rolled by since I last walked through the doors of Sweet Sanctuary. My life had since aligned with a new rhythm, paper wrestling, the quiet hum of productivity, and resolving challenges had replaced the fragrant whiff of sweets. Now seated in my crisp new office, a world away from the confectionary's chaotic storeroom, my phone rang. Angela's name lit up the caller ID. She was a former colleague from the shop and the only connection to that part of my past I maintained. "Hey, Angela, what's new?" I greeted, a tinge of apprehension in my voice, knowing that updates from Sweet Sanctuary always stirred old memories. "Haven't you heard?" Angela's voice mixed pity with discomfort. "The shop shut down last week. The bank foreclosed on it, and even their house." A wave of unexpected relief washed over me. "How are James and his mother coping?" There was a brief pause. "Not well, I'm afraid. They've moved in with his aunt. They've been keeping a low profile." "Thanks for letting me know, Angela," I replied, the news settling in. She hesitated, then added, "Karen, everyone knew you were the lifeblood of that place. It just wasn't the same after you left." A small, sad smile touched my lips. "Thanks for saying so. How about you? Have you found something new?" "Yes, I'm at a bakery downtown now. It's no Sweet Sanctuary, but it's a beginning." "That's great to hear, Angela. You've always had a knack for baking. I'm sure you'll do well." We exchanged a few more words before ending the call. Looking out the window at the bustling street below, there was a knock at my door. "Your 4 o'clock appointment is here," my assistant announced. "Thanks." "Send them in," I replied, ready to shake off the last traces of nostalgia. A couple walked in, worry etched on their faces about their enterprise. As I stood to greet them, I felt energized by the new challenge. "We've heard excellent things about you, Karen," the wife said as they took their seats. "They say you're the top crisis manager around." I smiled, feeling at ease with the acknowledgement. "I'll strive to live up to that. Now, tell me about your business, and let's explore how we can steer things back on track." As they detailed their issues, my mind buzzed with strategies. This was my domain now, where each problem had a remedy, and every challenge was a doorway to opportunity. Sweet Sanctuary, with its bittersweet recollections, lay behind me, and ahead was a path I had crafted for myself, one of resilience, redemption, and new beginnings. As our conversation continued, their initial anxiety transformed into hopeful smiles. They departed with renewed vigor, and I turned back to my desk, my spirit lighter than it had been in ages. In that moment, I realized the most rewarding victories often come after the toughest trials. The future was mine to shape, one deliberate step at a time.